Cloud Young Online presents Young Tales. Tales for the young and the young at heart. Today's story, Bullfinch's Mythology, Stories of Gods and Heroes, Juno and Io. One day, Juno noticed the sky darken suddenly, a telltale sign of her husband Jupiter's mischief. Suspicion gnawed at her. She waved away the unnatural cloud and uncovered the scene beneath. Jupiter stood on the banks of a shimmering river, his hand resting on the head of a strikingly beautiful heifer. Juno's sharp intuition told her the truth. This was no ordinary animal. In fact, it was Io, the mortal daughter of the river god Inacus, whom Jupiter had been charming. Caught unawares by his wife's approach, Jupiter had hastily transformed Io into the heifer to conceal her identity. Feigning ignorance, Juno approached with her usual air of regality. "What a fine creature," she remarked, inspecting the heifer with a critical yet appreciative eye. "To whom does she belong, and from what herd?" Jupiter, trying to appear nonchalant, responded, "A recent creation of the earth born from its fertile bounty." Juno's lips curled into a cunning smile. "She is exquisite. Might I have her as a gift?" Jupiter hesitated, loath to surrender Io to his wife, yet to refuse such a seemingly simple request would surely arouse her suspicions. Reluctantly, he agreed. Juno, far from satisfied, entrusted the heifer to Argus, the 100-eyed guardian whose watchful gaze would ensure Io's confinement. Argus, ever vigilant, allowed Io to graze during the day, but tied her with a rough rope each night. Io, trapped in her bovine form, longed to plead for her freedom, but her voice had been replaced with a mournful bellows that startled even herself. One day, Io encountered her father Inacus and her sisters. She approached them, her heart breaking as they admired her form, oblivious to her true identity. When her father extended a tuft of grass to her, she licked his hand in gratitude. Desperate to reveal herself, Io used her hoof to scratch her name in the sandy earth. Inacus froze as recognition dawned. "Io!" he cried, embracing her trembling form. "What cruel fate has befallen you, my daughter?" Their reunion was cut short by Argus, who drove Io away with an imperious wave. From his perch atop a high ridge, Argus resumed his tireless vigil, his many eyes scanning every direction. Jupiter, tormented by Io's suffering, devised a plan. He summoned Mercury, the fleet-footed messenger, and instructed him to free Io by any means necessary. Mercury descended to earth, donning his winged sandals and grasping his sleep-inducing wand. Disguised as a shepherd, he approached Argus, playing a haunting melody on his panpipes. Argus, intrigued, beckoned Mercury closer. "Sit with me, young shepherd. This is a fine spot for grazing, and your music is a rare delight." Mercury joined him, weaving tales and soothing tunes into his conversation, hoping to lull Argus into slumber. Despite his efforts, Argus's 100 eyes took turns staying open, ever watchful. Finally, Mercury began to recount the origin of his instrument. "There was once a nymph named Syrinx," he began, "who was beloved by many, but vowed her heart to Diana and her sacred hunts. One day, Pan, the rustic god, pursued her relentlessly. She fled to a riverbank and begged the water nymphs for aid. They transformed her into reeds just as Pan reached her. In his frustration, he sighed, and the air through the reeds created a melody so sweet that Pan was inspired. He bound the reeds together, creating the instrument you hear now." As the tale unfolded, Argus's eyelids grew heavy, until finally all his eyes succumbed to sleep. Seizing the moment, Mercury raised his wand and struck Argus down in a single blow. Juno, mourning her fallen guardian, immortalized his eyes on the tail of her sacred peacock where they gleamed like stars. Juno's vengeance, however, was far from over. She sent a relentless gadfly to torment Io, driving her across the world. Io swam through the Ionian Sea, giving it her name, crossed the Bosphorus, and roamed through lands far and wide. Finally, exhausted and despairing, she reached the Nile. Moved by her suffering, Jupiter swore to Juno that he would abandon his pursuit of Io if she would relent. Juno, satisfied with his pledge, restored Io to her human form. The transformation was gradual and mesmerizing. Coarse hairs fell away, her horns retracted, and her bovine features softened into the delicate beauty of a mortal woman. Io, tentative at first, feared her voice might still betray her, but when she spoke her name, it was clear and human. She embraced her father and sisters, their tears of joy mingling with her own. At last, Io was free, though her journey left an indelible mark on the land she traversed and the heart she touched. And here's where we end for today. Young Tales is produced and narrated by Todd Young from Todd Young Online. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe and join us next time for another story. Thank you for your support.